There we go. Normally they make the last day for submission of these things before the exam, because otherwise all of the responses are just people being butthurt about the exam. But far be it from me to try to bring a modicum of sense to institutional policy around it. This is the last Java class. Hopefully the last Java class period. I hope to see none of you ever again for Java. I hope to see you again for server-side programming in the fall. I believe I'm teaching one section of server-side. I'm also, I think, teaching one section of database theory. So you could have a double Moore header next semester if you plan your schedule right, which is probably way too much of me. You probably want to calm down with that. I can be a little overwhelming, I know. So the plan for today, unless there are any questions, or we'll answer questions first. But the plan for today is to take the practice test that's up on the modules in Canvas and go through it in the same way that we have gone through such things in the past. But before we get there, how's the assignment going? Haven't started?
Which one?
The final assignment 6, final assignment for this class.
The drawing one.
Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah,
Not so well.
it's got to be in for tomorrow. So busy. Question?
Unrelated to Java, but for JavaScript, the third button press, do the links have to link anywhere, or can they just be like the text?
Oh, yeah, please make them anchor tags and make them link to the actual page. Live links, please. Good. So, in both this class and in JavaScript, because the due date for these assignments is the last day of class, and I do not want you submitting assignments into exam week, that is bad policy. In fact, I believe that's actually contrary to actual institutional policy. There are no late days for these ones. Late days are kaputs, right? Needs to be in by midnight tomorrow. Or early morning Saturday, at the latest, all right? Okay, good. So, any other questions? All right, so let us take a look at week 13, test 3 review questions.pdf. We'll do this in the same manner that we did this before. Updated by Nicholas J. Korkegan in the summer of 2023. Very good. Thank you, Korkegan. So, we're going to do this in the same manner that we usually do. I'll give you a time limit. You attempt your answer of the question. This is a simulated testing scenario. Once again, the absolute best way to do this is on paper, because in the test you will be doing this on paper. If you don't have any paper with you, but you should bring up the test questions themselves on your computer screens, because I want to write on the board, and I don't want to be constantly up and down the screen. So if you could please load the practice test either on your laptop or on your lab computer, one of those things, and get a pad of paper out. Question at the back, sir? Yes.
Is it test 3 review question?
Test 3 review questions. Yes. That is the document. Once you open that up, it says final exam review. This is, similarly to previous, this is an actual exam that was actually set in 2018, which is some time ago, but this is Java. Java hasn't really moved appreciably since the 90s. So at least not insofar as like the stuff we cover in the course, broadly speaking. So, yes. Is everybody prepared? Everybody has everything? If you don't have a pad of paper, please use a plain text editor to write your solutions on your computer. One that doesn't give you any assistance at all. Something like just plain old Notepad. Even Notepad++ is going to give you hints. It does some light autocomplete, and it will syntax highlight for you. Okie dokie. Oh man. When I printed the exams at the print shop, like one of the exam it's multicolors, right? Multiple colors. When I asked for red, it was like way too dark a red, and it like kind of made it hard to read. That's like black text on red, I'm pretty sure there are certain types of color blindness where you can't, you can't actually even read that. So I had to send it back, but it's like not that red. But yeah. Anyway. So, question 1. Write a single line of Java, presumably Java. So write a single line of code that will throw an illegal argument exception containing the message, nice try. Let's take, I think maybe, get the phone, get the thing. Should be able to knock that out in 30 seconds. There we go. All right. So, what's the answer? Anybody?
Throw new illegal argument exception, nice try.
Throw new illegal argument exception. Nice try. There you go. Very good. Next, write code to call a method named testMethod. This method might throw an illegal argument exception. Include code to catch that exception and print the message contained in that exception to system.error. Let's give you 1 minute for that, I think. The news and interests thing on the toolbar for Windows now.
No work to do to get Windows to be easy.
It's easy, you just uninstall it and reinstall something else. Alright, so, what do we got?
A try catch.
We got a try catch. Try test method. Catch. What goes here?
Illegal argument.
Illegal argument exception, do you need an E as well? Like
Yeah.
that and then
Need,
below.
yes. Because that's an argument,
Yes.
right? There we go. And what is it supposed to do? Print that message to system.error. Now that is something that with a little bit of cleverness you should be able to sort of, you should be able to kind of make the logical leap. Yeah?
Isn't it like system out, system.error, like system, like that like print line and then inside the brackets is system.error?
Close.
Well,
System.error.print.
Yes, so normally when we print, it's system.out.print line, right? E.get message. I think it's get message, right?
E.get message, yeah.
Print the message, yes. Having that target system, system error buffer instead isn't as easy as making that replacement. Yes?
So if we do system.out, we don't get full marks for that question?
No. As it was asked for, we asked for system.error. Of course, within the course, we don't really talk to any great degree about the system buffers. And system.error, this is probably the first time a lot of you are hearing about it. I would love to quickly explain what it is. Yes?
So would we get like a short form of SE or SOEP?
Yeah, if you wanted an abbreviation, it would be S-error, right? Instead of S-out. So, yes?
What's the difference between e.get message and just print line e?
So if you just provide E, you're relying on the toString method definition which comes packaged with exceptions. I believe that gives you more than just the error message. I believe that also gives you things like the stack trace.
I'm not sure if it does. I'll have to try, because I know for my S2025 I did that method where I just handed E off, and I know it gave it said the Java error type, and then it said the message that I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just using the system print line E.
Oh. Let's see. It's like, I'm looking this up for Java and I get references to C#. It's like, yeah, okay, thanks Microsoft. Yeah, I don't know. Bit of an edge case, isn't it? I'd have to look at that up. I have no. I would need more time than I have now. One thing though, I would like to very quickly explain the difference. Explain like what the heck standard error is, right? So the way that programs interact with other programs and with the user in a command line environment is you have 3 buffers. You have standard input, standard output, and standard error. These are your three buffers. When you type on the keyboard, those keystrokes are always captured by standard input. Programs read from standard input in order to process what you've typed. When you create a scanner object in Java, right? In the constructor, you pass system.in, right? Scanner sc is equal to new scanner system.in. You are saying, please create a scanner for standard input. Basically, Java calls standard input system input. Standard output is where all of your print messages go. When you're running a command line interaction, everything that basically the program says, okay, I want this printed, it gives it to the operating system, and the operating system's like, okay, I will print that when I get around to it. But it buffers it for later output, right? Standard error works very similarly to standard output, in the sense that, well, like functionally, when you write into standard error, it goes to the same place as standard output, typically, right? It still displays in your log of things in your command line, right? The reason those two are separated is that these can be separately captured and logged by the operating system and by like command line programs. So some command line environments will even go so far. Anything that prints in like standard output prints in white text on a black background. Anything from standard error is like red text on a black background, right? To kind of visually distinguish them. But yeah, basically it's like you can capture standard error and put it to one side, capture standard output, put it somewhere else. You can, but that's, when you're writing error messages, technically it's correct to use standard error instead of standard output. But we don't really teach you file streams. Or we don't really teach you standard buffers or file streams or anything of this kind of an operating systems nature in the course, even though we should, because it's important information. Yes?
Not about that so much, but on the test, if we needed to do illegal argument exception, can we just write IAE just to save time?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah. I'll know what you're talking about. Some of those exception names get hella long. Good. Next, question 3. Write code to create an empty class named child that inherits all its methods and instance variables from a class named parent. I will give you 30 seconds. Oh. Ah, shoot, I was gonna play a video, but it's an ad. Anytime you want to do anything nice. Bloody Toronto Dominion Bank, get out of my face. Interesting. I think that means it's printing it to standard error instead of standard output, maybe. Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, it is. It is right here. All right.
So yeah, it just gets rid of the error messages, like if you use get message.
Well, it looks like get message is correct then.
Yeah.
Very good. All right.
Makes it more readable.
Stop it. Ah. All Alright, there we go. Alright, so this one should be fairly simple, right? You're not actually required to write the parent class, right? Once again, on a test, be careful to read the question very carefully about what it is I'm actually asking you to write and what's assumed by the question. So, 3 public class child extends parent. There you go. I kind of consider that too easy for an exam question. Right. Question 4. Now this is a bit of a more chunky one. Given the UML diagram and declaration for the variable c below, put a check mark beside all the assignments that are legal and an X beside those that are illegal. So, we have C, which is declared as class C. You must tell me which ones are good and which ones are bad. I will give you like a minute and a half. All right. So, I guess we could just go through it saying yes or no. All right. So, can we declare a new A?
No.
So, we have C, right? C equals new A. Is A a superclass or a subclass?
Super.
Right. So it doesn't work. Right? So when we declare C as an A, the type checker is expecting C things. C can have things that A doesn't. Right? C has everything A has, but A does not have everything C has. Right? So this is actually an error. Subtypes satisfy supertypes. Supertypes do not satisfy subtypes. Right? Make sense? So, with that in mind, how about B? It's a sibling class, so like, B is a big fat 0, a big fat no. Can a thing be declared as itself?
Yes.
Yes, it can. D. No, it's again, not even close. How about E?
Yes.
E is a yes. E is a subclass. Subclasses satisfy superclasses, but not the other way around. F. F is a yes. G. G is a yes because grandchildren also count. How about H?
No.
Good. H is a no because what kind of arrow is that? It's an association arrow. Very good, very good, very good. All right, so, very good. Consider the UML diagram and the code below. Man, this really dates this thing, doesn't it? I don't think I've heard the word cronut for some time.
I've never heard of it before.
Okay, so they were like mildly popular, like about a decade ago, as like the food that's definitely the worst food for you on the planet. But essentially what you do is you take a croissant, you make it into a donut shape, and then you deep fry it and you put sprinkles on it, and that's what a cronut is. It's a donut, but with way more butter than a donut's supposed. It's like the oil is on the inside as well as the outside, basically. I would encourage you to look up the Wikipedia page on cronut for references in pop culture. So, when the code is run, how many calls will there be to a draw method, and which draw methods will be called in each case? So, we have circle C equals new donut, C dot draw. If C instance of, well, you can read it. I will give you a good, well, let's give this 2 minutes worth of consideration, shall we? So, how about that first one? Which C dot draw does that refer to?
Circle draw.
The circle? Any other answers?
Donut?
Donut? Probably not the last one, right? So, the trick behind this one is understanding that when the method is called, it's called on the object at runtime after the type checker is finished, right? Although the thing was declared a circle, right, it is a donut, so it gets treated like a donut at runtime. So the draw method that is being drawn from is the donut draw method. So the first one is donut. Next, if C instance of cronut, cronut C dot draw. Which one is that?
None, it's not going to draw.
Okay. You think it's like a syntax error?
I don't think it's an instance of cronut.
Oh. That's true. I missed that part of the question. Great. It's true. It's not an instance of a cronut, so that won't fire. That draw method doesn't fire. Very right. However, if it did,
Maybe donut.
it'd still be donut, yeah. Although we're casting it as a cronut, it's not a cronut, so we'd probably encounter an error, but if C actually was a cronut, then it would have worked. At any rate, I think casting it in this case is actually doesn't matter, because it's this, we're talking about overloaded methods anyways, right? It's you only have to overload when you're looking for a method that's not in the base class, right? When it's, so, right? You guys are with me on that? When we call draw, that definition is already provided by circle, right? So it doesn't really matter if it's been cast as a donut, or if you have a thing that the type checker thinks is a circle, but it is actually a donut, the circle class has a draw method, so it's not an error to call it in the object. It would be if it was a method that's added by the subclass, right? In that case, you do need to cast, right? You do need to cast in that case because the type checker wouldn't think that the parent class had a copy of it, because it's not declared in the parent class, it's only declared in the child class. So that's where you need to cast. In this case, the casting is redundant. How about the third one? If C instance of donut, donut C dot draw. Does this run?
Yes.
And what does it call?
Donut.
Donut. Yes. Good. Write the code necessary to create an array and fill it with 1,000 objects of type donut. See previous question. Question?
So on question 5, if it was circle C equals new cronut,
Yes.
C dot draw, the first one would be the cronut's draw method,
Yes.
and both of the if statements would also be the cronut draw methods, because it's cronut.
Well, certainly the second one would be.
Yeah, the third one being.
Or because you're casting the donut, it takes the donut's draw method. Is that,
Yeah.
Is that the way you're thinking about it?
I can't remember if instance of matches parent classes as well. Let's see if that's the case. That's useful to know. Let's see. Yes. So yes, instance of does match parent classes. So a declared cronut returns true. It is an instance of a donut, and that is an instance of a circle. So anything in that chain it would match.
So then that second if statement would call the donuts job method because it's casting it to the donut.
Well, it's casting it as a donut, but casting again is only the concern of the type check. Once that is actually executed, you're working with an object, and the object would refer to the overloading and overriding in the normal way. So that would actually still be the cronut method. Cool. All right, thank you. Very good, very good. Question 6. How about a minute 30 for that one? There we go. I feel like today's attendance, like in the Venn diagram between people who attended today's class and people who are going to pass the exam, I feel there's a fairly strong overlap between those two categories. Coming to class does not guarantee passing, but it definitely helps. Anybody mind if I erase this?
Yeah, I heard this is supposed to be your bigger class group out of the 2 groups that you have.
Well, I only have one section of Java, but yeah, this is the one with more, like, what is our actual head count? 11 people out of 38. So, like, I get it, stuff comes up, but like, it's interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, it's review, I won't come to class. But like, the review is like, if you come to no other class, you should come to the review classes, you know?
Or are you aware of like people who have dropped the course, or you're not aware of the people who have dropped the course?
Not many people drop the course, like 1 or 2, but no, people are just, you know. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, the exam is going to be a bloodbath that I am powerless to prevent. 6. So we need to create an array. Create an array of donut objects. Donut array. Diabetes equals new donut array of size. That's right, folks. 1,000. Fill it, and we are supposed to also fill it with objects. So you have a couple of options here, basically a while loop or a for loop. Remember, for each loops are not what you want in this case, right? For reasons previously stated. Does anybody want me to go through that again?
No.
No? You guys got that? Awesome. Does it say the constructor doesn't take anything?
That's right.
Yeah, you're not really given information on the constructor. Well, actually, you're given a usage of it, so that's probably fine. Yeah, there you go. Question?
So kind of like the spark notes for the for each loop, you can't modify the values of an array with a for each loop?
I mean, it's not like it's an illegal operation. You shouldn't, because any changes you make are deleted because you're only modifying a variable that's local to the loop. Right? It'd be like, take I for example. It'd be like modifying I, and imagine that that's modifying the array. Right?
We just did something goofy like donuts at index donut, and then equals new donut.
Donuts at index donut.
So donuts like the array, and then you reference the index where, like you're doing a for each loop, so you reference the index where donut exists, you replace that with a new donut.
You have an example?
No, I could make one really quick, but
So,
I don't know what the actual syntax in Java for it is, but I just mean like, you just reference where it exists in the array.
yeah,
It's a really bad way to do it, I just mean like, would Java let you do that?
I mean, the way that you can get around it is by basically reconstructing I, right? Because like, you can use a for each loop, but you still need to like access sequential indexes to be able to do that. So you're either like looping, you have to set up this mechanism anyways, or maybe you're like searching through the array for a null value and replacing it with an object, right? But that turns it into like a nested, like that blows up your complexity, turns it into a doubly nested loop, right?
I think I actually remember trying to do something like that before, and it hits mad at you and it says that unless it's an array list or a list, it's not ordered and you can't reference an index. I think it was something on there like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Now, if it's like, with lists, this is possible, right? Because you just say like, you know, you just say d dot push new donut, right? Since d is a mutable type, you can throw that into a for each loop and it works, right? You can call methods on existing objects, right? You just like, it just doesn't work for arrays. Make sense? Good. All right. Question 7. Write code to declare an abstract class named abs that contains an abstract method named abs that will return a string that has no parameters. All right. I think we can probably knock that one out in 30 seconds, and I'm not only saying that so I get to play some of my quiz music again. There you go. Bonus points if you can tell me what show this is from.
24.
Oh, it's the guess the letters.
Hmm?
It's the guess the letters one, isn't it?
Jarvis, I'm curious if it's a trick question.
Hmm? It's on the tip of your tongue, right?
it is.
Yeah, this one I'm not sure if it's a trick question, because if the methods are abstract and there's only one method, wouldn't that make it an interface?
What? It's talking to me. Stop it! Go away. There we go. Sorry, the thing. You gotta be careful with those videos. The autoplay, man. The autoplay. Yes. So, abstract class. So,
Oh, Wheel of Fortune.
I understand. It's not Wheel of Fortune. I understand. That's a good one, though. I should play that one next.
Oh, no, it's the
I wasn't sure if this was a tricky question or not.
guess, like,
So, although if you had a class and the only thing in it was abstract methods, you could turn it into an interface. That doesn't prevent an abstract class from only having one abstract method in it.
Okay,
Make sense?
yeah.
So, let's get that on the board. 7. Public abstract. What's the class name?
ABS.
Abs. Public abstract class. Abs. With one abstract method. Does it say what its privacy level?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, well then, so it goes. Probably public. Public string.
Oh, Jeopardy.
Abstract string absm. There you go. Yes?
Does it matter the order, if it's public or public string abstract, public abstract string?
I don't think it does actually.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure you can put those tags in any order.
Also, it does have to return a string as well.
Well, because it's an abstract method.
I see.
Right, yeah.
Didn't we, I can't remember if it was, it might have been interfaces, but I think because we declared a class as abstract, it just automatically sets like the methods to be abstract, so you don't need the keyword.
That's interfaces. Yeah. So abstract methods, basically the correct way to view an abstract, the difference between a class and an abstract class, it's a class with abstract members enabled. Right? It's a little bit different from an interface where you're right, all of the methods have to be abstract, so the keyword is actually redundant if you include it. You don't have to, but you can, right? Probably should for clarity. Yeah, in an abstract class, you can have both like you can have, I don't know, concrete methods and abstract methods. So you have to be able to distinguish them.
So if you don't put abstract on the method, you don't get the mark? Is that right?
That's right.
Gotcha.
Although I'd take like a half mark off of that. Question 8. Write the minimum amount of code necessary to implement just the owner class as shown at the right. Assume the other classes have already been implemented. I think probably we'll give you a minute. Let's see here. Oh man. The bonus round timer for Wheel of Fortune is only 13 seconds. That's not long enough. But we have about that much time anyway. Oh, but there's gonna be an ad. Bloody ads. Oh, no ad? What? Good grief. Stop. You're not the real timer. This is the real timer.
Oh, and you can use super.
There you go. So all right. So, what's this thing inheriting from?
Human.
And what is the relationship between owner and dog?
Association.
Right. So, we have public class owner extends human Gesundheit. public dog woofy. There you go. Could also be a private dog. Yes.
That kind of answers my question. If you initialize as like equals new dog with a blank constructor, would we lose marks? Is it expected to be more than that? Because you said minimum code necessary. Is that?
Depends on how angry I'm feeling, I guess. No, I probably wouldn't take marks off for initializing the constructor, even though like technically it says write the minimum amount of code necessary, and that's the absolute bare minimum. But I don't know. Implementing the constructor is like a reasonable and intelligent error to make in this case. So normally, when I'm looking for marks to take off people, I don't have to go that deep. You know. Cool. So, question 9. Write the code for an abstract class named abs that contains an abstract method called foo. The abstract method has 2 integer parameters and returns a string. See, this seems redundant after like the question 2 questions ago. You know? Shall we skip it? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, skipping question 9. Questions A through C refer to the UML diagram shown on the right. Question A, what are the declared actual types in the line of code below? Okay, shall we just say it? What is the declared type?
Food. No, it's food.
Right, foo is the declared type. Foo child is the actual type, right? Because, remember, declaration separated from instantiation. You declare it with the declared type, you instantiate it with the actual type. What did they say? Terminology,
Yeah.
actual type. So, you know, in actuality, it will be a foo child. This thing seems to be like, this test is leaning pretty heavily on subtype polymorphism. I understand why a review test should do so, because it's like probably one of the harder concepts in the course. I would say this is not necessarily representative of the percentage of the test that's given over to subtype polymorphism, let's just say. You'll still be tested on it, but you know, perhaps not at this length. Write a line of code that calls foo method 2 for the object stored in the x variable above. So that one I will, I'll give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds on the clock. Here we go. All right. How many? Oh man, no. Navigate away from the page. That's okay. So this is a situation where you do actually have to cast it, right? You remember that? You remember how I was saying earlier that the cast before was unnecessary because the draw method existed and was overloaded in each class? One thing that you need to notice about this example is that foo method 2 is not in the parent class, right? So, because it's not in the parent class, but this x variable has been declared with the parent class, this would be a type error, right? So we need to cast. Write a line of code that calls foo method 2 for the object stored in the variable. called the second class? Foo child. Foo child as applied to X dot foo method 2. There you go. Make sense? Good. C. What class does foo extend?
Object class.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, yes.
I forgot. Because there were short questions, so I thought you wanted us to do them all.
No, that's no. You're. I would have done that way. Yeah. Now, like, there's a little bit of strangeness about this particular UML diagram, which is this foo pack label. Would you like to know what that is?
The package.
That's a package, right? Packages are not classes, right? So you are correct. The thing that foo is inheriting from is the base definition of object in Java. Pretty much every object-oriented language has some kind of base object that most things, like everything, will inherit from. Question?
So the answer for C would be just write object?
Yes. Object with a capital O, right? Or, you know, to make it completely unambiguous, the object class, right? All right, question 11. Write Java code to print 1 to system.out if the variable z holds an object of type myType, and 2 if it holds an object of type yourType. Otherwise, it prints nothing. Don't you love it when the answer to a question is derivable from previous code that has been given in previous questions on the exam? Let's give this one 1 minute. It's Countdown, by the way. That's the name of the show.
Oh, it's Jeopardy.
No, Countdown. The other one is Jeopardy. I've been playing both clips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This one is Jeopardy. Oh, music. That's Jeopardy.
Oh, is it the 9 out of 10 cats this countdown? Is that the one?
See, 9 out of 10 Cats is like a comedy show taking over a quiz show. But the quiz show existed before that.
Ah, okay. I don't know the comedy show then.
Yeah. Anyway. There we go. So, do you guys mind if I clear the board? Okay. So how do we tell if an object is of a particular class? Instance of, yes. Very good. I think this is 11. If z instance of my type s out 1, else if z instance of what's the other one called?
Your type?
Your type. pass out 2. And I think if neither of those is the case, print nothing, so that's it. Sound good? Very good. Yes.
If we do camel case for instance though, do we lose a mark?
Yeah, that's weird. That one I thought it would be camel case, but it's not.
Yeah, that's what I was.
It's a weird like term.
Is it but
Again, that one depends on how strictly I'm adhering to. You must have exact syntax. Normally, I don't have to be that strict to fail as many people as I need to out of this course. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. Maybe I'm, inclining myself towards mercy, but, Well, alright. Moral justification for my position. Alright? Or some I'm going to justify my position. You see all of these articles now about how the changes being rendered in the industry due to the introduction of AI is that people will be more possibly reading code and editing code than coming up with it whole cloth. Knowing that instance of in Java it doesn't use camel case, but it's all lowercase, is increasingly not a detail that you need to know to program Java effectively, right? So, in my opinion, the whole, everything we do needs to move away from being so persnickety about syntax and testing reasoning ability. That's my view. I don't own this course, but that's the direction I intend to take the courses I do have control over. So yeah, I'm more interested in, do you think like a programmer, than can you remember, that, right? Although I will say that the way that that's done is deriving from an older tradition derived from the C programming language, where you get system functions like type of that serve a similar purpose in C and are also all lowercase. Yeah. It's is there a reason for it? Yes. It's tradition reasons, which, the things are sufficiently complicated that if you picked apart every single element or entry of syntax and semantics in the programming language, then the course would literally take 5 years to get through, right? Question 12. Add the minimum amount of code necessary to the class. Oh, but there are no classes below. Let's rewrite this to say, write the minimum amount of code necessary to implement the relationship in the class diagram shown on the right. You can assume that each class is defined in its own file. Can we skip this one? Is this one too easy? I feel like this one's way too easy. Here's the Coles notes. You declare 2 instance variables of type rider, right?
In this case, would it matter if you did 2 or just 1 array?
An array is acceptable so long as its size is 2. Yeah. For me, if it's my array threshold is 3 or 4, If it's only 2 items, it's Are you really saving any time by using an array? Right? But, once again, the test in this class is your code valid? right? Would it compile? Not, do I like your style of coding, right? I mean, if I like your style of coding, that's a bonus, right? But if I don't like your style of coding, but it still works, you'll get your marks, right? This one might be a little bit more interesting. Explain the difference between checked and unchecked exceptions. Give one example of each type of exception. Shall I give you a minute to think about that? Alright, so what's the difference between a checked and an unchecked exception? Anybody?
I'm not sure if this is right, but I wrote a checked exception is caught by the Java type checker. But I was just kind of guessing.
And an unchecked one?
Caught by Java runtime.
If you took type checker and replaced it with compiler, then I would say right on the money. The type checker is only one of the things in the compiler that could throw an exception. But yes, that's generally the difference. Technically, syntax errors are not type errors, right? But if you get an exception thrown during compilation, that's a checked error. If you have an exception thrown during runtime, that's an unchecked error because the compiler didn't check it. So what's an example of each?
Incorrect type? Would that be?
So type errors themselves, sure. Depends on the type of type error though. If it's type error originating from user input, that's something that's necessarily unchecked. We don't have the user's input until we run the program, right? But if you make a type error or a syntax error while you attempt to compile your Java program, then that's a checked error. Another type of checked error, Java will check files to make sure the files you're referencing exist before you attempt to run the code. So how about an unchecked error?
Array out of bounds or null point exception.
Null pointer exception, array out of bounds, yes, absolutely. Basically, any exception which you throw in your code is an unchecked exception, right? So illegal argument exceptions, such as we saw previously, those would also count. Also, do not forget your old friend and constant companion, the div0 error, right? Arithmetic exception is another type of exception. You have to do the calculation to find out if that happened, so it can't be checked ahead of time. The div0 is kind of like, it's a famous example of something that the type checker would love to be able to catch, but can't. Not in all cases. Although if you just write like div0, the literal value 0, I'm pretty sure it'll complain about you. Yes?
So for unchecked an example, we could do like array next out of bounds exception, and then for checked file not found exception, do that.
Yep. Write a single line of code in the method below so that it prints the value of both variables named x to standard output. Yeah, okay. This seems easy, but it does actually push on something slightly important. So, 30 seconds. Is the music annoying? Because I can just nod. No? All right. If you don't mind it, I'll keep doing it.
Keeps life colorful.
Yeah. All right. So, how do we print both x's? First, it's important to recognize that there are two x's.
I'll just say you can sout this dot x plus some message and then plus x.
Yes. So, yeah, basically you have to s out x and you have to s out this dot x, and you have to understand that those are two different things, right? Hopefully, like that's way back to the beginning of the course. Yes.
But I think it says to do it in one line, and is the string necessary, or does it matter if it like adds the two and
Oh, it does say it didn't do it in one line. Okay. Yeah. Ugh. All right, and yes, I think that works. Yes. Good. Question 15. Write a declaration for a private instance of it. I'm getting bored of these. Do you want to jump to the next section?
yeah.
Shall we do like an actual programming problem? This is like, it seems like an excessive number of these.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like it was just a lot of filler content, like, just to make the test long, just for the sake of it being long.
See, I think that maybe what was done to this when it was like this is more questions than are on the exam. This has been padded for the purpose of being review questions. So so let's do some questions now. Let's see if we can find a good one that's interesting.
18 looks interesting.
18.
Yeah.
Write a single line of code that prints the ASCII Unicode value for the third character of a string named S.
Especially if I think I did that wrong, and I casted my S as a char.
Well, that requires two things, I think. How do you get a character out of a string again? That's the first step. So 2 steps. 1, isolate the character. 2, print it as ASCII code, right? It's not split, is it?
Oh, I guess you can split it
Index
to
of?
turn it into an array of characters.
It's char add.
Char, oh yeah, character.
It's string char add and then the index.
Char add, that's right. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah. So it's like foo dot char at, and it said third, right?
Yeah.
So index 2. And I think you should just be able to cast that as an integer.
that would get the ASCII value of it?
Pretty sure. Can you cast? Here. Give me a second, I'm gonna test that. I'm going to test it on pythontutor.com, which is that thing I showed you. I showed you Python Tutor, right?
Yes.
It's got a Java mode, just so you know. Char C is equal to A system.out.print int int foo is equal to int cast C, and then print foo. Let's see what we get. Yeah, that works! Ha 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 ha! The ASCII value for the lowercase a is 97. So, casting as integer works, but there's another way of doing it, and that's using printf, I would imagine. We didn't really cover printf, but let's see if Java complains about this. Yeah, okay. So in C, this is how you could do it. You could say printf d, which is the tag for an integer, provide your character, and that would work, because in C it's not checking that the thing that you're printing as an integer is actually an integer, because C doesn't really have type checking. Java, this is illegal, but that's another way of doing it. So yeah, the Java way is to cast the character as an integer. Good question though. Thank you. Are there any other interesting ones from the short answer section?
21, sort of, maybe like 2 different ways of how to use the super keyword.
21, give 2 examples of different ways to use the super keyword. Explain what each use of it does. So, okay. So when it says the super keyword, it's talking about the keyword itself, right? So one place you use super is in constructors, right? First line of the constructor to invoke the constructor for the super class. The other place that you can use super is if you want to access an overloaded copy of a method, right? ToString being the typical example. If you want to include the ToString output for the superclass in your own, you can do that. You concatenate super.ToString to whatever you're doing. Does that make sense? Question?
So if you have inheritance of a variable, if it's not an overloaded method, you don't need the super keyword?
That's right. Because if you're not overloading it, you've inherited the definition, right? Yeah. You've inherited the definition, so you don't need to say, super dot whatever. Although I don't think it's an error if you do. Cool. All right. Question 22 looks long and boring. Kind of standard implement a bunch of methods, or implement a bunch of classes for me. Yeah?
In question 22, I don't know if this will come up in one of our UML diagrams, but what does that pray one mean? What is that?
Yeah, I believe they've just labeled the arrow with the name that the variable is supposed to have. Much of the time, this is left out of our UML diagrams, even though really it should be included. The other thing that should be included on association arrows that we don't include is public versus private. Or even like static versus instance, actually. Right? From the association arrow, there's no way of telling if that reference is supposed to be static or not. Right? So, I hate UML. It doesn't do what it says it does. First of all, anything claiming to be universal isn't. Like, just philosophically speaking, anything that claims to be universal cannot possibly be, because it's on this planet, it's not on the universe. Anyway. Oh wow, is that the only coding problem?
No, there's many more.
Yeah, I was
It's a long
saying.
one. We only have like 20 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip it. I don't think there's anything interesting in that question, really. Like, aside from maybe what number means, numteeth is the number in the UML. Cow doesn't even have plus or minus. Herbivores has a tilde. What is with all these symbols?
Yeah. Question 30 might be interesting because that one probably involves like rewriting it to implement like Canadian interfaces or abstract.
Alright, let's take a look at question 30 then. You are the person who's calling out the question numbers. If anybody else wants to call out question numbers, then you're welcome to, but so long as you're doing it, I'm gonna do those question numbers. Question 30. The code below has some duplication in it. Modify the code or rewrite it to eliminate as much duplication as you can. So we've got A class and B class. X, Y, Z, X, Y. This is a good one. So, the very first thing we have to understand to answer this question, how are we eliminating duplication? Because we have several ways of doing so. Any ideas?
Going from more general to more specific? Like, or maybe I'm like jumping the gun and like wanting to create a parent-child.
You're close to it, but I'm looking for a one-word answer.
I was gonna say extends.
Yes, which is an inheritance relationship, yes. So if you'll notice, these both of these pieces of code have a great deal of shared content. The thing that you do is you create a new class they both inherit from that contains that which is shared. So, public class C. The things that are shared are private int x and y, private int x comma y, the double is specific to B, and the third int is specific to A. So it would even be useful to like start all three classes at the same time, if you like leave yourself space to do so, right? Because that way you can kind of work on them in tandem. Public class A and public class B. So if you take a look at A has private int Z, private int Z. I probably didn't leave myself enough space, that's okay. And then it's private double private on the double, what's the name?
Yeah.
Good. So, let's consider the constructors now. C class will have a constructor for its own variables. Public C taking int x and int y. This dot x equals x. This dot y equals y. Turn the crank, and out comes a constructor. Now, to reduce redundancy, we need to use this constructor in the constructors for these two guys. But we still need to take all of that information. So, public A int x, int y, int z. Super! X, y. This dot z is equal to z. Question?
Are A and B extending C?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Thank you. Yes. Same over here. Public int x, int y, double A, super x, y, this dot A is equal to A. Constructors are dealt with. Now, we take a look at the methods. What methods are common to both? Compute, yes. Public int compute. Takes two integers. Or no, it computes x and y, right? Yeah. Not going to have space to do it that way. That's actually the end of that one. And A has calculate, but B does not. So B is actually finished. This one needs calculate. Public int calculate like that. Make sense? Any questions? Good. Are there any other questions which anyone thinks is interesting? Given that we have about 18 minutes left in class. Yes,
Question 25.
question 25. The code below worked just fine before I added the constructor to it. Now I'm getting a syntax error on the line that is underlined IntelliJ says, constructor new class in class new class cannot be applied to given types. Why did I not see this error before? Why am I seeing this error now? So, we added a constructor. First of all, what does the constructor take?
An integer?
An integer, right? So, I am happy that you brought this one up because this one is a somewhat subtle point in Java. So, if you, like the other thing that's important to note is that that's the only constructor, is the one that was just added, right? If a class has no constructor that we've written in, does it have a constructor?
Yes.
Yes. It has the default constructor, which takes nothing and does nothing, right? If you notice, the underlined line calls the constructor with no arguments. As soon as we add a constructor that's not the default constructor, we no longer have the default constructor. It gets removed. So, that Java is of course telling the truth when it says that new class taking no arguments no longer exists. It's no longer there. Make sense? So, that should answer both of those questions. That's part A though. I know that I could fix this by removing the constructor, but I don't want to remove it. Give me two other different ways to fix the code.
Adding the default constructor back in.
Adding the default constructor back in is one. What's the other?
Passing a variable or an integer?
Yes, passing an integer into the constructor. So you either modify the call to the constructor to use the new constructor, or if you really want the default constructor, you put it back in. Make sense? Very good. Question?
I'm a little confused with the constructor new class in class new class cannot be applied to given types. Just the wording of it. Because my first thought was you can't apply you can't create a new class object for some reason. I think I'm just reading it or understanding it now.
Cannot be applied to given types. I wonder if that's the current phrasing that's used for that type of error.
That error is saying because you no longer have that default constructor and you're not passing anything into the current constructor, that's why it's giving the error.
So what it's saying is, I have no method definition matching the types you're giving me. That's what it's saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. The point of the question is to figure out why. So, good. Any other questions that anybody would like? I keep thinking your shirt is the Canada flag, but it's not. Anybody else have a question that you'd like to have done, given that we don't have enough time to do all of these?
Can we look at 19 quick?
19?
It's just an error one, but I'm
Sure.
not super confident with those yet.
19. And?
Oh, just one thing to note about that error, because I just ran it real quick to see what it actually say. So it gives a lot better of a description. It does say constructor in class cannot be applied to given types, but then it also says required integer found, no arguments.
Yes.
So it's actually better than just that line in the test.
Let me just say that when I occasionally do a problem of this nature. Here's some code. I'm getting this error message. Diagnose the error for me. I tend to give you the full error message, but not the stack trace, right? Like the stack trace, you don't need to know the 17 lines of like what library function this failed in, right? You just need like the one at the bottom, but it'll include like line number and the full description of the error. That's what I give you.
I just think the error reason it would be better than the actual error that Java gives you. 'Cause the reason at the bottom it says actual and formal argument lists differ in length. I feel like that'd be a better error.
Yeah,
Just gonna-
I agree. I'm not married to any one of these problems. I'm married to my wife. I have no loyalty. So, at least to any amount of written text. I have a method named bad method. Bad method. It takes no arguments and has no return value. But when it's called, it might throw a special kind of exception called a bad method exception. Write code that will call bad method and print error to standard output if it throws bad method exception. Sure, we can do that one. This one's actually fairly easy. There's kind of something missing from the description here. What if it throws a type of exception other than a bad method exception? So, bad method exception is an exception type. You would put it here. If you wanted to, catch every other type of error as well, you would do this. This is not part of the solution to the problem, but is nevertheless interesting. Remember that exceptions, all exceptions, are classes which are inheriting from the base class exception. As a result, these guys satisfy subtype polymorphism. A bad method exception will be caught by this, but any subtypes of exception will also be caught by this. In consequence, if you want to catch all exception types, you provide exception E. This will catch, like, an exception of any subtype of exception. That is the worst sentence imaginable, I am sorry. The object, the throwable object, which is thrown here, if it is of a subtype of exception, this phrase will catch it. This functions as your else case. This is your else case for exception handling. Does that make sense? Cool. And it's because all exception types ultimately inherit from this guy. This is the supertype of all exceptions. Make sense? All right. I think I got time for one more.
I think it's gonna be 24.
24? Let's do it. Let's take a look. Consider the main method below. Depending on how your user behaves, there are 3 exceptions that might be thrown when this code runs. Your job is to figure out which 3 exceptions might be thrown, see list of possible exceptions, then rewrite the code with additions so that if an exception happens, the program prints a user-friendly message and this sounds a lot like assignment 6, starts the program again from the beginning. If the user makes it through with no exceptions, the program should end and not loop back. To get full marks, your rewritten code must be... Okay, so this one's a little bit longer than you might think, right?
So if something divides by 0, that's an arithmetic exception?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. Step 1, let's identify all the different exception types. So, int e, right? If d, so if b is 0, if b is 2, d will be 0, therefore e will be an arithmetic exception. So that's one type of exception, right? What are the other 2 types of exceptions we can see here?
Array index and bounds.
Yes. So array index out of bounds. If a or b is not between 0 and 4, we get an array out of bounds exception. And what's that last one?
Is it the input mismatch if they do like a string or characters?
Yes, input mismatch. So I'm not going to rewrite the body of that for the interests of time, but I'll show you the code that goes around it to make it safe. Right? You have your scanner line, right? We want this thing to loop back to the top if this doesn't work, right? If this is gonna be really ugly, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna do it too wild, but this one's probably nicer looking.
No. It's bad.
No, this one's ugly too in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, it's an entirely different form of ugly. That code, right? Like, you could go into the level of like the individual lines that might fail, but it's kind of easier to just just throw a big try around everything, right? Less effort on the test. So we've got an arithmetic exception E, S out, div 0. Continue.
Is it possible to catch multiple exceptions in one line separated by a comma?
You use a single or, like a single line.
Like catch arithmetic exception E, comma, input mismatch exception EX, comma.
See, if you do that, then you don't get custom error messages for each different type.
Okay, but it is possible even though it's like against best practices.
Well, I mean, another thing you could do is you could say exception E, and then you could say E instance of, arithmetic exception or whatever, and use like if statements to do that.
Yeah, in the
Right.
catch block.
Yeah. Then you'd only you'd separate that out, and you'd only need one continue, because I'm going to have one of these in every branch. But then we have catch index out of bounds exception, the EUB exception, S out, etc. Continue. Catch. The final one was an input mismatch exception.
place or on the left?
Eh, normally, if I see anybody make a loop and then make the last statement of that loop a break, I slap them in the face. But like, this is essentially, like, I'm trying really hard not to use a go-to here, right? It's like, basically, I want to be able to jump execution back up here, but I really only want to have to run this once.
What a do while is for?
Well, except for,
Well, there's no exceptions to this.
I mean, but with the do while, it's like, I mean, I guess you could do like, do dot 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 all of that
Wow, there's no exception.
while false to immediately break the loop. But like, the other way you could do it is like you could set a variable telling you whether an exception occurred or not,
Not a state.
right? Yeah, like raise a flag, you could use a flag variable for this as well, right?
If you put break at the end of the try block, you wouldn't need to continue using the catch and everything, so it wouldn't actually see that break unless it encountered no error.
No, actually you do need them because when you finish executing a catch block, you jump down here and then continue executing.
Okay. Oh,
So,
I meant like getting rid of that break at the bottom, because couldn't it just go inside of the try block, so you're gonna see that break if it doesn't.
oh, I see. Yeah, you can put it up there. Those are both equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the, you'll help.
Yeah, those
Message.
those are equally correct places to put it. Yeah.
So
So
you
just
have
then you wouldn't need to continue to string.
Hmm.
Because you say it's out of bounds, and you never
True.
see it, it's incorrect.
That's better. That is better. There you go. That makes me feel better about it, actually. Because now I'm not breaking on the last line of a loop. I don't know. That's the best that my poor, addled 37-year-old brain could come up with in such short a time span.
There's always better ways to do it. Steve always said to avoid while true.
But he would sometimes use it though. He would sometimes
Yeah.
use it. He would just tell us, don't do this, guys. But I'm gonna do it.
I guess for error.
I guess I'm not quite as hostile to them as Steve is. I agree that like a beginning programmer will normally overuse them needlessly, right? And like, is it bad practice, the forever loop? Yeah, it's not the best practice, but there are also very, very practical considerations. Like there are some situations in languages in which that is what you are expected to do. So, like I remember from my days back in embedded systems programming, that basically you put all of the stuff that the controller is supposed to do normally inside of a infinite loop, because otherwise when the program ends, the controller turns off. So if you want it running continuously, you put it in an infinite loop. Infinite loops aren't necessarily bad. Sometimes that's what you want. Like your operating system, at the core of it, is somewhere basically running an infinite loop, right? Until you turn it off.
We kind of like the simulation in the game that we made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, a good example of an infinite loop is like the subprocess in JavaScript that's checking to see if events have happened. Right? But anyway, any final questions for this, your final class?
I do have one question. Do you recommend that we like learn the like math.random, math.squirt stuff, or is that sort of helpful classes gonna be like on the last sheet of the exam?
Don't worry about it.
What
Okay.
about, graphics, the specifics of like how dot oval and all that?
You will be provided a reference sheet at the back of the exam with some of that information on it, so you don't have to memorize a certain degree of it. But you should be familiar with how that gets laid out. You should be familiar with how the how the template works. You should be able to fill in the template.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, I was trying to do some, practice under week 3, week 6 for arrays.
Allergic, I guess.
The exercise, and then I see the solution, but the solution is just a bunch of blocks of code. So I don't know like which one answers which under week 6.
Oh, really? They're not labeled?
No, I mean they're just a bunch of code in a zip.
Oh.
But then I don't know like if it's labeled okay, because there's like question 1A, I believe, A, B, C, 2.
Well, I would have to take a look and do a mapping for you, but I might say that digging through that code and figuring out which piece of code applies to which question might actually be a pretty good exercise. Use the source.
Okay.
Yes,
Can you still bring a stapler?
you must.
A highlighter?
If you must.
Are we allowed to highlight?
Sure, you can bring a highlighter too. People are gonna be bringing half of the staples now.
Is there?
Let me just turn the camera off. Yeah. Before we start discussing.